So that's what we set out to do. David Harris, who had been my educational advisor during my campaign in my first year in office, became our charter school director. And everything you hear about from me and from him all stemmed from his talent and his abilities. He did a remarkable job building a mayor's charter school office literally out of whole cloth. There was no model to follow. No mayor had ever had this authority before. So let me just jump real quickly to the results. Today we have 17 charter schools in Indianapolis, mayor-sponsored charter schools. There are a couple of more that are sponsored by one of our state universities in our city, but 17 of them are mayor-sponsored. Just under 7,000 students attend these 17 charter schools. That number grows. The number of schools doesn't grow at a rapid rate. The number of students does, because many of them started off small with the intention of growing bigger each year. In 2007, the last year I was in office, the state put out a report ranking the 210 schools in the city of Indianapolis, 210 public schools, based on the improvement in the pass rate of the state standardized test. Improvement from one year to the next. We had 12 of our schools at that time that were eligible for that ranking. This was 2005 to 2006. So 12 schools that had been in place in 2005 and 2006 that were mayor-sponsored. Of those 12, we captured 6 of the top 11 spots in terms of improvement from one year to the next in pass rate on the state standardized exam. Interestingly, about a week ago, the 2009 report came out showing the improvement from 2007 to 2008. And this year, interestingly, once again, in this case, 6 out of the top 10 schools in terms of improvement were mayor-sponsored charter schools. And they were mostly different than the 6 out of 10 from 2 years ago, meaning that those that had not been improving at the same rapid rate 2 years earlier were doing so now. The bottom line is that this and a lot of other data has shown that what the charter schools in Indianapolis are doing is they're taking the kids who are the most challenged in learning. Their starting standardized test pass rates are very, very low. Very low. These are not, as charter schools are sometimes criticized for, skimming the elite students off so that they can show very good results. It's exactly the opposite in Indianapolis, and I suspect it's exactly the opposite in most places. People start charter schools in most cases to help kids who otherwise are not getting a high-quality education, are not getting the opportunities that they need, or have been failing in the current system. So in our case, they start off much, much lower than the public school average in the city. And what the charter schools are doing is improving the educational outcomes for those kids at a much faster rate than the traditional district schools and much more consistently than the traditional district schools. And I'm going to wrap up by talking, because I want to leave some time for questions and answers after David's done. I'm going to wrap up by talking about some of the other benefits that have resulted from this, aside from just these statistics that show, and there are many, many other statistics I can give you, but just aside from the statistics that show the quality of the charter schools and their relative performance compared to the traditional district schools, these are some other benefits. First of all, we learned that the mayor, as an authorizer of charter schools, this is starting slowly to kind of catch on around the country, but the mayor as an authorizer brings certain things that other authorizers don't bring. One is accountability. Everybody knows who the mayor is. Everybody knows how they can register their displeasure or their satisfaction. Usually it's the opposite. They quietly appreciate you when you're doing a good job. They vociferously criticize you when you're not. And everybody knows how to do that. Everybody knows where the mayor is. Everybody knows when the mayoral election is held. It's a great accountability tool. So often, I don't know how it is in Texas, but so often in most places, the school board members are largely anonymous. School board elections are sort of held at off times, dominated often by special interests. It's not the system most designed for accountability. Transparency also is something that mayoral authorization brings, because the loyal opposition, the media, are very keen on making sure that you tell the full story and that you get all the information out there. Something we wanted to do anyway, so that wasn't the problem. But we were very transparent about the performance of the schools, including reports on the school's progress each year, warts and all. We are very clear about the failings of the schools as well as about the successes of the schools. We don't whitewash anything. Secondly, another benefit of this effort was a variety of choices. We have a recovery high school, that's a charter school, recovery high school for recovering addicts. Children who have a substance abuse problem, either drugs or alcohol, they've gone through a recovery program. The rate of return to drug abuse or alcohol abuse when a child between 15 and 18 goes back to the high school from which they came, the rate of return is over 80%. In other words, the chances of them falling back into that addiction are over 80% if they go back to the school they came from. The Hope Academy, which was set up by an addiction hospital in Indianapolis, keeps those kids from having to go back to the environment that they came from. They can, when they enroll in the school, they can stay there the entire time and graduate and be surrounded by other children who have been through the same struggles that they've been through in an environment that is supportive of them. And the success rate has been very, very high. They would not have been able to do it had the charter school law not passed and had the mayor not been able to authorize that school. We have a classics high school that has a classics curriculum. Everybody takes Latin. All subjects are studied in the context of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Just a very different choice. You know, that's not for everybody. Some people would find that very appealing. Other people would say, I don't want my kid in that kind of environment. But it's a choice. We have a school that follows the accelerated school model, predominantly African American school that has the approach that every single child is capable of gifted and talented behavior, or gifted and talented performance. And they are treated as such. So every single child is assumed to be gifted and talented, and they're given every support opportunity to help grow. Instead of the, as President Bush famously said, the soft bigotry of low expectations, or words to that effect. These children, it is the exact opposite approach. They are expected to go to a four-year college, they're expected to graduate, they're expected to have college credits before they even leave high school. The expectation levels are very, very high, and the success rate, again, has been very good. Variety of choices. Thirdly, competition. It's a word that I was a little afraid to utter 5 or 6 years ago because it's such a loaded word when you talk about the public education system. But in reality, I have become convinced that monopolies simply cannot reform themselves, and competition is absolutely essential, and that's what this charter school effort has provided. It's provided a vehicle for involvement by the business community. So often people have been on the outside criticizing, saying, we've got to make the schools better, we got to, we can do all this other stuff, why can't we educate children in our inner cities more effectively? Well, this gave them a chance to put their money where their mouth was, and a chance to get involved. And we've had so many business people get so immersed in public education through our charter initiative in Indianapolis. Frankly, sometimes I worry that they weren't paying enough attention to their own businesses. They had gotten so completely immersed and involved. And then finally, and most importantly, and I want to turn it over to David now, is the individual success stories. Forget the statistics. Those are important for all kinds of comparison purposes. But the individual success stories are what matter to me. That's what kept me going. That's what makes the work worthwhile. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. It's about one single child, and then it's about another single child. And I cannot tell you, as I began in my last year or two in office to start to speak at charter school graduation ceremonies, high school graduation ceremonies, how many parents came up to me and said, but for this school, my child would not have graduated from high school. It was the same story over and over and over again. The existing system had not served them well. And that was not necessarily the existing system's fault. But the reality was that child did not fit in for some reason. They had to find their own fit, or they were going to be a statistic, they were going to be a dropout. More importantly, they were going to be a life of potential lost. And this has turned around an awful lot of lives. At the end of the day, that's all that matters to me. I know that's all that really matters to you in your work. So thank you for the chance here to talk a little bit about our charter school initiative. Now I want to turn it over to David Harris to talk about the Mind Trust, which emerged out of our charter school initiative. David?